My dear friends, hello! Put likes, subscribe to my channel. Enjoy watching. Thanks.
Let's start off by taking a closer look at the charging unit for the Mavic Air 2. It looks pretty much like any charger you'd have for a laptop, but it's built specifically to charge the Mavic Air 2, and all the specifications match the batteries perfectly. On the one end, you've got a custom connector that plugs into the battery. Now, if you've got this standard kit, you can only charge one battery at a time by plugging this into the battery, and you'll have to rotate through them. If you bought the Flymore combination, it comes with a really nice small hub that you can plug this into and connect 3 batteries at a time, and it still only charges one of them, but it can walk its way through those batteries as the charge is complete. On the one end, you've also got a USB-A connection over here. That's a nice little touch that allows you to charge any portable device. So it's intended really to charge your controller with the included cable, but it'll also charge your phone or tablet. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that this has a limit of 2 amps of charging current, so it can't really charge big devices, but it's perfect for like phones and tablets and certainly the controller that comes with it. On the other end, there's a port there to connect the cable that's included. You'll connect that up to the wall, and that's all the power you'll need. Now, the rating on the charger, it looks like a 13.2 volt charger, which is great, and it's got 2.82 maximum current output, so it's plenty big enough to be able to charge your batteries pretty quickly. So that's pretty much the charging unit, pretty standard fare for DJI. Now we'll take a look at the drone, and you can see that the Mavic Air 2 is built to be incredibly compact and portable. They've done a great job of protecting all the important things once this thing is folded up. To open up the drone, hold it by the body, and you'll start with the top arms first, fold those out. Now you'll notice about halfway through the travel, these are spring-loaded, that it wants to spring open on its own. Don't let it snap open on its own. Always hold on to the arm all the way through the end of travel, because even though you might get away with it a couple of times letting it snap open, over time that's going to damage the sensitive hinge inside here, because that torque snapping open really puts a lot of undue pressure on that hinge. So once those two are open, flip it over, and you can open the bottom links by folding them down towards you. Now, since we've got it upside down, let's take a look at the bottom of it, and I'll point out a couple of cool things. Number one, it's a heat sink, so it's keeping the electronics inside at a comfortable temperature by radiating extra heat out with these heat fins down here. You'll notice 2 optical sensors there. That's the crash avoidance and sensing below, so it's coming down on something that's going to warn you. In the center is an LED. That'll light up your landing pad, and I think you're going to have control over that like you do in the Mavic 2 through the application, but I'll play with that in a little bit. But that's an LED that comes on and lights up the ground below it. On the back, there are 2 infrared sensors that are called time-of-flight sensors, and that's kind of a sophisticated technology. I'll probably do a separate clip on that just to explain how it works, but essentially, it's sending out an infrared beam that ricochets off of something below it and comes back up, and it can calculate how close it is to the ground or some other object based on the timing of that beam coming back. It's used in industry all the time, but that's your time-of-flight sensors. Now, on the sides, no sensors, because it has no side obstacle avoidance. On the back, there are 2 optical sensors here, and on the front, there are 2 more optical sensors here. So it's got protections built in for front, so it can sense crash avoidance that way, the back, and down. So it's got 3-way crash avoidance, and it doesn't have any side sensors or top sensors. I know a lot of people are going to say, gee, why didn't they build those in? The truth is the sensors gather a lot of information, and that has to all be processed by the internal electronics. And the more sensors you put, the more complex that electronics is, and the more energy it drinks, and the more work it has to do. So keeping it down to 3, I think, is a perfect mix of not eating up too much battery to maintain that sensing, and also gives you the protection you need pretty much where the stuff you're going to fly into is in front of you, behind you, or below you. Now, side sensors are nice, but for me, I don't really miss them. All right, so let's take a look at the battery. And again, I mentioned before how close this looks to the Mavic Pro to me. The battery assembly is released by pushing in these 2 clasps on the side. They're spring-loaded, so push those and you can lift up and pull the battery out. Boy, that battery looks just like a Mavic Pro battery. It's just a little bit smaller, just like the Mavic 2 as well. Now on the top, they've got a push button here that you use to turn it on. So the way you turn on all the DJI products is you tap it and hold it, and then eventually it'll spin up. You can also tap it once to see how fully charged it is. Now, between that first part of the clip and this one, I did charge up the batteries because I can't wait to get outside and fly this thing. But now I'm tapping it, you see 4 LEDs light up, and that lets you know you have 100% charge in the battery. If there were only 3 lit up, that would be 75%, 2 would be 50, and 1 would be 25 or below. If it's flashing, it's typically below that threshold. And to put the battery in, you can't put it in backwards, so if you try to jam it in this way, it's not going to fit. It'll only fit one way. And when you put the battery in, don't just push down in the middle. I recommend pushing at the front and the back, and you'll hear a click. when it snaps in there, always check to make sure it's fully seated, because there have been times, even though the gravity is going to help that battery stay in there, there have been times where battery's like fully seated. I don't know if I can simulate it. Now this one's pretty good. It actually gets down there nice. But over time, they get a little bit lazy. You want to make sure that it's fully seated down, because the last thing you want to have is a drone up in the air where the battery shakes a little bit and you break that electrical connection and the circuitry resets. That's going to cause a lot of problems for you. All right, a couple other things to notice. On this side, you have a little door on the bottom. If you open that up, that's where the micro SD card goes. So you can put up to a 256 gigabyte card in there. On the other side, there's another little door on the bottom. And let's open that up, take a look at what's in there. All right, I'm suspecting, yep, there you go. That's a USB-C connection. Now, what that allows you to do is connect the USB-C connection up to this, and the other end of it up to your computer. You can actually transfer the files off that micro SD card. Now, a lot of people like to do it that way. I typically pop out the micro SD card, and I'll use like a 3-in-1 card reader to transfer those files over to my computer. It's just a lot faster for me. I also like to pull the card out and review them in the field. All right, let me take a look at the imaging package next. So you've got a gimbal clamp on the front, pretty similar to a lot of the gimbal clamps out there. Again, it looks just like the Mavic Pro gimbal clamp. The way you take that off is you push down and pull forward. So be gentle and pull that off. And then there's your imaging package. So this is the 3-axis gimbal that supports it. You can see that it's supported with suspensions inside as well. There's the camera. Again, a beautiful imaging package. It's a 1/2-inch sensor on there. Looks like Hasselblad technology. I'm going to have to look a little deeper into that. But that 1/2-inch imaging sensor is also paired up with a much faster bit stream back. So it's got 120 megabits a second coming back from that. So that gives you that 4K ultra high definition imaging on the front of the unit. So very, very nice package there. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for the drone. Again, beautiful drone. To fold it back up, you reverse the process, fold the legs in underneath, fold these two on the top, snap the gimbal clamp on, and you're good to go. One other thing I did forget to mention, I didn't talk about the propellers, and I want to add that part of it now. So there are 2 sets of propellers. You'll notice on these 2 propellers, there is no line at the top. You don't see any white, but on these 2 propellers, see that white circle? And underneath it, see that white stripe on the motor? That way you know that these propellers go white to white, and these don't have any markings, and they go plane to plane, for lack of a better term. The way you take the propellers off is you hold the motor, push down on the propellers, and spin the top of the motor, and they pop off. That's pretty much it. So if you forget and you take all 4 propellers off, just look for the one with the circle on it, and match it up with the white on the bottom. And again, all you do is push down, spin the motor, and let it go, and it locks in there, and you're in good shape. And that's pretty much it. Now, with the propellers, always inspect those propellers before you take off. The 2 things I caution people about are to make sure the battery's fully seated, single point of failure. If that fails, the drone's coming out of the sky. Make sure that the props are fully seated, because you might think you have them on, but if they're not fully seated and tight, they could pop off and the drone's coming down. The other thing is always do an inspection of the propellers before you put it up in the air. Run your fingers along the outside edges and see if there's any gouges or nicks or any debris on them, and keep them clean, and you'll be in really good shape. The last thing I'll mention about the props is it's got the, let me pull this one off. These props have the brand new little air wing on the back of it here. These are low noise, high performance props, and they kind of learned that in the Mavic Pro Platinum. Was the first product that actually had these kind of props on it. These tend to be a little bit more efficient than the standard props that are square in the end. They're also a little bit quieter, so they're doing everything right with this new Mavic Air 2. Okay, here we have the controller. Now, this is the way you'll get it. It doesn't have the joysticks assembled. The joysticks are in the bottom. To attach those, you just pop them out of their little holder and put them on up top. And they just screw on finger tight, so you line them up with the holes and screw them in. Now, I don't normally take these joysticks off. I usually leave them on, and I'll put them in the kit with them on. The reason I don't take them off is because I'm always worried that, I'm going to drop them in the grass, and then I'm going to spend 20 minutes trying to find them, or worse, if I drop them in the grass and I get dirt and debris up inside those threads, and then put them back on, I'm transferring all that grit and dirt inside the controller, but totally up to you how you handle that. So there are your joysticks. On the front of the unit, you've got a couple of buttons along the bottom. This is your charge indicator, so again, I've charged this up. If I tap it once, it's fully charged. If this is blinking, it's below 100%, somewhere between 175. If it's off and this is on solid, each of these represents 25%. So 25, 50, 75, 100. If it's blinking, it means it's a little bit below that level. As far as buttons go, return to home button right here. You tap that, hold it, it'll instigate the return to home. The drone will fly to whatever height you've got set, fly back and land. In the center, you've got your speed control, I'll call it. Normally, you fly in the normal position, which gives you the speed that you would fly out and do some really nice filming. If you want to go crazy fast, you put it in sport mode and it'll actually go at its top speed. It's not great for filming, but it's really good if you've got a location you're getting to that's pretty far away from you. I typically put it in sport mode, elevate, fly out to the location, drop down to normal mode, and do my filming. Then when I want to come back, I'll put it back in sport mode. Tripod mode slows everything down, so it's sort of a cinematic mode that forces you to do things a little bit slower. It'll slow your movements and your turns and everything else. So tripod mode's kind of cool, but I usually use normal for when I'm filming and fast or sport mode when I have to get out to a particular location. On this side, you've got a function button, and that can be programmed, I believe, through the application. I'll be looking at that in a little bit. And then on this side, I've got, looks like a sort of a circular button here that'll flip between recording and picture. So if I tap that, it'll move between pictures or recording, and then you've got one button here that instigates the starting of that. So if you're in picture mode and you hit that, it'll take a picture. If you're in video mode, you hit that, it'll start recording. On this side, there's our familiar gimbal wheel. So if you spin that, the gimbal's going to tilt down or tilt up. And there are some adjustments on the gimbal that I want to play within the application, because when I looked at the specifications, it looks like it goes above 90 degrees, which is great. So it does crank up, I think, up 40 degrees above horizon. And it also looks like it goes a little bit further beyond the down position as well. So I'm not sure if they're going to give us control of that, but the gimbal can move a lot more than normal. And then up top, you've got your tablet holder and your phone holder here. So you pull that out, and it springs out like this. Now, it looks to me like I can handle all the big phones that are on the market, but there's no way you're going to get a tablet in there. So you're going to have to use a tablet adapter, which sits on top of this, and your phone will sit in these grooves right here and underneath this nice protective rubber piece up top there. The last thing I'll point out is the connections. I'm pretty sure you can see that if I get a little closer. But basically, you've got a cable in here that connects up to whatever device you're using. So you'll have to have the port on your device on this side, and you'll plug it in. Now, this is an Apple connector. If you have an Android product, you can unplug this one and plug in whatever connector you need to make the proper connection to your phone. That's a USB-C connection down there. So here's the connection for the Apple, and they include both a micro USB and a USB-C as well. Just plug it in, connect up to your device, and you're good to go. Now, if you do need a longer connector because you're using a tablet adapter, which is going to put the tablet up here somewhere, we have those on our website. We have this kind of cable in a 30-centimeter range, which will be USB-C on this end with either a micro on Apple or a USB-C on the other end. So pretty straightforward there. Again, really nice compact design. There's some venting on the back. Keep it nice and cool. I'm not sure if they've got an internal fan. I'll have to play with that a little bit once we get a little bit of time. Get this thing outside and start flying it and playing with it on the bench. But I do like this new design. I have to say that it seems really well balanced in my hands. I like that. I also like that I'm not swinging the arms out down the bottom. I had some issues with some of the remotes with those arms. So it is a really nice compact design. We'll have to see if they carry this forward with some of their newer quads. But for now, boy, I really want to get out and start flying this and see how this feels in your hands. Very nice product. Nice rubber grips on the bottom as well. That's kind of cool. But in general, that's your remote.
Dear friend, hello. Put like, subscribe to my channel. Enjoy watching. Thanks.